Hello and welcome to another video, and today we're doing a Q&A, because it's my channel and I can do what I friggin' want. I like to do one of these every like 1 to 2 months or so, I guess, particularly recently because I'm growing quite quickly, and so I feel like there's a lot of new people that are coming to the channel. They probably don't know much about me. It's a good chance for us to engage, to have a bit of a two-way convo, you know, the best kind of convo. I'm a man of the people, I like to think, a bit like Jesus. Like, I'm not saying I am Jesus, but what I will say is, have you ever seen me and Jesus in the same room? So bear that in mind. Okay, so what I did was, as I always do, I put a post on my Instagram story like yesterday morning. I got about 4 friggin' million questions. Like, I was, for the 2 hours following the post, I was scrolling through questions whilst training, and I didn't get to the end of the question. So that's a pretty impressive effort, guys. Well done. If you missed that event, it means you probably aren't following me on Instagram. If you're not following me on Instagram, go and do it now. At MattDoesFitness. It's probably, and by probably I mean certainly, the best Instagram account in the world. So you're welcome. Anyway, it's going to be sick. So if you are excited, drop this video a like, and if it gets 10,000 likes, I will film the next one fully naked whilst riding a horse around Sainsbury's. Okay, we're in. Exciting, right? And by the way, if you've not yet liked the video, you're going to hell. So bear that in mind. Now, I have my trusty phone with me. I say trusty, my alarm didn't go off this morning, so actually we're experiencing some trust issues, but I'm gonna put those to one side, give them the benefit of the doubt, because I need the timer. Now, I'm gonna be controversial and set a 20-minute timer for this Q&A. I ordinarily do 15 minutes, but like a lot of people say, why don't you do a longer one? And the answer is I don't know. Like, I just thought that was a good number, but in retrospect, like, if you want it to be shorter, you can just stop watching when you get bored, and then the people that want the long one can watch the whole thing, you know what I'm saying? So, timer is being set as I speak now. We're in. First question, _El Natan, how do I get rid of stubborn fat? Double question mark to emphasize the nature, the questioning nature of that question. Just get leaner. Like, unfortunately, there's no special technique or like method or thing you're not doing or you could be doing to get rid of stubborn fat. By stubborn fat, I'm assuming you mean, you know, on your stomach, for example, or on a particular part of your body. Now, if you get relatively lean, like to a low body fat percentage, and you still have body fat on a particular area, what that means is that that's where you genetically deposit your body fat, right? So unfortunately, you've inherited that from your parents or whatever, and that is where you put your body fat mainly. And so that means to get that part of your body lean, so we're talking about abs, for example, to get your abs super lean, if you unfortunately deposit more body fat on your abs, you're gonna have to get really, really low in terms of your body fat. So to give you a comparison, I don't put much, if any, body fat on my abs. What that means is I can get up to, say, maybe even 15% or so body fat and still have very visible abs, whereas someone else who puts all their body fat on their abs could be down at, say, like 10% and only just have visible abs, you know what I'm saying? So that person's gonna have to work that much harder and get that much leaner to have those visible abs, aka to get rid of that stubborn fat. Kernel.ketchup, cool name. Can you grow a beard? No. Andreas Wallerman Timonens. What is that? That's a stupid name, you need to cut that down. How do you gain muscle without gaining fat? It's another big one. Okay, so let's break it down. Initially, you need to establish like where you are in your training lifting career, right? Because a beginner is gonna differ vastly to someone that's been lifting for 5 years. So for example, if you are a beginner, you can, as long as you're careful, you can build muscle without gaining fat, right? If you're a beginner, if you've just started training, if you sit at maintenance, or you sit maybe like 100 calories into a surplus, so a very small, stable, consistent surplus, then, and you train properly, you train hard, then you will build muscle and you won't build fat. You know, you will literally just, you will look sick. Your improvements will be significant, and that's because you are in that newbie phase where you can just make stupid progress under pretty much any circumstances. Conversely, if you've been training for, say, 5+ years, maybe even a bit less than that, it's basically impossible. If someone says do this to gain muscle without gaining fat, like, they're lying, unless they're a wizard or unless they're a steroid supplier, right? So unless you do drugs, it's basically impossible. Now, what you can do, similar to what I just explained there with the beginner, if you sit in a real small surplus and you are super patient and super consistent over a long period of time, you will be able to build muscle whilst only building a tiny bit of fat. So basically, let's say you gain, like, you know, 1/4 pound a week or every other week for like months and months. It'll be painstakingly, you know, it'll be really boring, but the majority of that weight gain is going to come from muscle. So basically you will end up gaining muscle and only gaining a small bit of fat. Now, depending on your genetics, so for example, like I just said about me not putting fat on my abs, I could go through that process and have the illusion of not having gained any fat because it would be like on my legs, on my lower back, on my bum, areas that you wouldn't typically see unless you're subscribed to my Pen Island username area account. But yeah, people would assume that I'm building muscle without building fat. The truth is it's not. I'm just good at taking pictures, and I have favourable fat depositing areas. This is getting convoluted, but you know what I'm saying, right? Basically, the answer is no, you can't gain muscle without gaining fat, but if you are very careful and you are very patient, you can gain muscle whilst only gaining a tiny bit of fat. Next question, Mitch J. Parker. A good chest workout? With no question mark. I'm not going to answer that because you've failed to use correct punctuation. G48 hours. Are you still sponsored by MyProtein? Good question. I've been asked that like a million times. That was like 10% of my questions were just that, or like linked to Gymshark MyProtein. Yes, I definitely, most definitely am. Like, people seem to think that because I'm with Gymshark, I can't be with MyProtein. Like, you can be sponsored by two companies. That is a thing. Basically, I'm now sponsored by Gymshark for clothing and MyProtein for supplements. Like, I love MyProtein. I've been MyProtein for like a long time. I think I've been MyProtein for like literally over 4 years, maybe even 5 years now. They're an awesome company. I love working with them. I've worked with them for through lots of various periods, lots of cool things together, so I have no intention of leaving them because they're a cool company. So any supplements you guys want to get, link in my bio. Thanks for the invitation to get the link in there, whatever the name of that last guy's that asked the question was. Salt X the X wound. Best way to progressively overload without a spotter, up the weight, reps or sets. Progressively overload without a spotter, I mean, like what I would do, so let's use the bench press for example, right? Let's say you are scared to bench press really heavy, like a 1 rep max, or go to exhaustion without a spotter because you're scared of dumping it on yourself. Firstly, I would just get better at dumping it on yourself so you can do that by yourself and you don't have to worry about it. But if you desperately don't want to do that, or it's too awkward to do it in your gym or whatever, then all I would do is just go no higher than an RPE 9, right? So basically, every set you do, just leave 1 rep in the tank. Now you can still progress, as normal by doing that. It just means you work at a scaled version of, so for example, let's say the average person is doing 5 sets of 5 and they're going to exhaustion, so they're doing as many, that last set of 5, they physically can't do any more reps and they're grinding out that last rep, and then the following week they increase the weight and so on. You do the same thing except for you drop it down a tiny bit. So you get to the point where the last rep of your last set is an RPE 9, so you had 1 more rep there. That means it's safe. You know you're not going to get stuck under the bar. The following week you can increase the weight and it works out. If anything, it actually might work out better for you. Like, I had a period in my powerlifting career, particularly at the start, where I was basically never getting higher than an RPE 9, so I was never really doing like massive grinders for my last rep of my last set, and because I had that little bit of leeway, it meant that I could keep making progress for longer. So the answer is just scale everything back a tiny bit. So like I said, just keep 1 or 2 reps left in the tank, keep increasing the weight or the reps or the sets every week or 2 weeks, and you can still make progress in the same way that anyone else can. Gabriel Strength. Hey Matt, what's your opinion on the recent influx of people admitting their use of SARMs? See, I think this is like I don't agree with that question. I think there seems to be a misconception. I think lots of people are saying, oh, there's this massive thing about SARMs. I mean, to my knowledge, maybe 3 people have come out about their use of SARMs. I don't think loads of people have. I think what's happened is that loads of people have just picked up on it and thought, this is a good video, I'm going to make a video on it. Like I did this, I thought, everyone's making videos on SARMs, it's a trending topic, I'm going to make a video talking about SARMs. I think there's not loads of people, there's not an influx of people admitting to their use of SARMs. There's an influx of people talking or making videos on the topic of SARMs because it's an interesting topic and realistically it's probably going to get a lot of views. Sam.Haydon, can you go a whole day / video without saying sick? No. Anak Dale, would you recommend a PPL split for women? So a push-pull legs split for women. So if you're unaware of what a push-pull leg split is, then go and read some books. But a push-pull leg split just basically means splitting your training up into push exercises on one day, which is like chest, shoulders, triceps, then pull exercises, so back and biceps, and then legs, so like legs, and you do that, then you'd repeat it, or you'd have a rest day and then repeat it. Now, I personally believe that is the best training split in terms of being a bodybuilder, being a natural bodybuilder in a realistic time frame. I think that's the best way to go. That's what I personally do, and that's what I personally recommend to the majority of my clients. So therefore, if you're a woman, why would that change? Women aren't they're not friggin' aliens. You have the same adaptations to training that men do, so I would advocate the same thing. Unless, I guess, you're like competing, so you're a bikini model, and so you have particular things like glutes and whatever you need to focus on, then maybe you might want to program those in more and change things around. But for the average woman that wants to just build muscle and develop her physique, I would recommend a push-pull leg split. Walker 8D, benefits of sumo deadlift over standard, like conventional, or is it just a carryover from powerlifting? I'm assuming you're talking about me specifically, like why I do sumo deadlift. The reason I do it, and by far the biggest benefit of doing sumo deadlift over conventional deadlift, if you're unaware, sumo means like wide stance, conventional means like narrow close stance. The biggest benefit by far is that sumo deadlift will protect your back. If you are doing sumo deadlift properly with good form, like I do, then your back gets almost no stress at all. Your lower back is neutral, and because your hips are set lower and your back's at a slightly greater angle in relation to your hips, it means that there's far less force on your lower back, and so you are a million miles less likely to get injured, and therefore you are able to accumulate more training volume over a longer period of time. And therefore I believe that for 99% of people, sumo deadlift is a better option. Unless you have a freaky strong spine or you have different leverages, then I would recommend sumo deadlift, because for that reason alone, plus you're accumulating less wear and tear from week to week. I believe it's less taxing on your CNS. So yeah, it just means that you can, like I said, you can accumulate more volume, and ultimately the more volume you can accumulate over a longer period of time, the more progress you're going to make with that lift. Aidan Banerjee, favourite ways to train chest other than flat bench press? So my preference for training chest is to combine pushing and flying movements. Pressing, so I'm a big fan of flat and incline dumbbell presses. I think heavy presses are the best way to grow your chest, in my opinion, in terms of like the CNS recruitment and the higher intensity. I just think you'll get more out of them, you get more bang for your buck. And then in terms of flies, I'm a big fan of like a pec deck, like machine chest flies. Now that's personal preference. Some people don't like that. Some people might prefer like cable flies, but for me, I feel the most chest engagement with a machine fly. So my preference would be dumbbell presses and then machine chest flies. Bosoni Ikluka, do you like Tesco's custard donuts? Yes, they're friggin' incredible out there. I'm pretty sure they're like 65p. Although is Tesco's the bad one? Oh, I might withdraw that statement. I know that Sainsbury's custard donuts are sick. I think Tesco's might actually be bad. So I'm gonna just stay neutral on Tesco's. I can confirm that Sainsbury's ones are sick. They're like 65p. You get 5 custard donuts. If you get them first thing in the morning when they've just been made, I'm gonna put it out there, they're up there with Krispy Kremes. In terms of value, I'm gonna say they're much better than Krispy Kremes. Tesco's, the jury is still out. I can't remember. I know there's one supermarket whose donuts suck. If it's Tesco's, then yeah, it might be. I'm doubting myself now, I'm not sure. Underscore M2T I1K_. Can I just make it a thing that if you want to ask me a question in the Q&A, you have a normal name that doesn't take me 3 hours to decipher? Best ab exercises. Cable crunches. For me, a cable crunch. So you are facing the cable pulley. You have the rope attachment. You put it on your head. You go on your knees and you crunch. That for me is by far the best ab exercise. Again, it's to an extent it's personal preference, but as a general rule, anything where you can add resistance like a machine is going to be better, because for that reason you can keep adding resistance, therefore you can keep progressively overloading. If you do like sit-ups, it's awkward because you can already do after a few weeks doing sit-ups, you'll be able to do 50 reps. That is no longer an optimal rep range, and you can add weight, but it gets awkward and it becomes subjective in terms of where the load is and gravity and stuff. So for me, a machine-based or a cable-based exercise is going to be best, and my preference is cable crunches. If you watch my videos, I do them quite a lot, and yeah, I'm a big fan of them. DWYA83, when cutting, which way is best for maintaining strength? So it's kind of the opposite of what I said earlier about building muscle without building fat. You just do it slowly. This basically goes for anything. Just do things incrementally and slowly, apart from if you're a paramedic and you're driving someone who's had a heart attack to the hospital, don't do that slowly, drive really fast. But for most other things, do things, over a period of time, nice and slowly, nice and sensibly, and then you'll get more prolonged progress. So basically, I forgot the question, was it about cutting strength? Oh, so this is awkward, I've literally forgotten the question. Were cutting best way for me? Okay, sorry. So if you want to maintain strength on a cut, just do it really slowly. Rather than dropping like friggin' 500 calories from day one, in which case, yeah, you're gonna lose strength quite quickly. Just do it really, really slowly. Don't lose any more than like, you know, half a pound or so of weight a week, because what that's going to mean is that the majority of is also keep your protein high, like keep your protein really high, get as many calories as you can from protein. You don't, like, there's a misconception. So protein intake, you don't need to have friggin' loads of protein. Most people have more protein, or they think they need more protein than they actually need. But when you are cutting, it has been shown that the thermogenic effect of eating higher protein will burn more calories. Plus, studies have literally shown that you will hang on to more muscle if you eat more of your calories from protein. So get as much protein in as you can within reason. Cut very, very slowly, so you only lose a small amount of weight each week, and you should be able to hang on, maybe even if you're lucky, gain some strength for quite a long period of time. Now when you get really deep into a cut, if you're competing for example, and you get down to really, really low body fat, then it is inevitable. There's no way you're going to hang on to strength. You are going to lose some strength. Both in terms of like energy and just like your leverages. Like if for a squat, for example, a 1 rep max squat, the smaller you are, you know, the deeper you're going to have to go to get a stretch reflex. So it's going to hit you in that instance. But you should be able to hold on to your strength for a good period of time if you run a sensible, sustainable cut. Ben Ashton Rigby, low bar versus high bar squats. Okay, so in case you're unaware, low bar squat, you put the bar like on your rear delt, so the bar is basically lower down your back, and the advantage of that versus high bar where the bar is up here, so it's better to have it lower in the sense that you basically shorten that lever. You're basically bringing the bar closer to your hip, so it's essentially making the movement more efficient. The bar doesn't have to travel, or it travels the same distance, but it basically makes you stronger, right? You will, when you get used to it, you will squat more with a low bar squat. That's why any squat world record or any big squat you will see done with a low bar position, right? Olympic lifters squat with a high bar just because like it makes more sense because they're more quad dominant. But yeah, basically a low bar squat, as well as making you stronger and making it biomechanically more advantageous, it will shift the emphasis a little bit more to your posterior chain. So it will take a little bit of the emphasis away from your quads and put it more on your glutes and your lower back and your hamstrings. Now it depends. I mean, this is so, I could talk about this for hours. I'm not going to because it'd be boring, but it depends on your leverages. So I have a long torso, so I squat with a low bar position, but actually my torso is still fairly upright. Yeah, it almost looks like a high bar squat with a low bar position, whereas someone with a shorter torso is going to have to lean forwards more to keep the bar in that, you know, the right bar path. And so in that instance, it's going to put a lot more pressure on your hamstrings, glutes, and lower back. People say, you know, if you want to hit your quads, then squat high bar. I believe you can still, you know, make loads of progress with your quads if you squat low bar, because I've been doing that for ages. But yeah, to an extent, it's personal preference. If your sole priority is quad development, then maybe it might be better to go to high bar. But if you want to squat more, if you want to increase your squat and hit bigger numbers, then it makes sense to go with low bar. Henrik Johnson, how long it take to do the intro with Luca? Luca is spelled with a C, my friend, and I get asked this question like so many times. So it varies, like he is a clever guy, you probably ascertain that, so he knows a lot of the time that I want him to say stuff, and so sometimes if he's in like an annoying mood, he'll just like elongate the process. But generally speaking, he likes entertaining and making people laugh. So if he knows saying something that's going to make me laugh, he'll be keen to say it, you know. So generally speaking, it depends also on the complexity of the intro. Like I sometimes shoot myself in the foot by planning out ridiculously intricate intros, like the one, if you remember one I did in Holland with Netherlands with him and Kofi, where they were like eating sweets. That took friggin' ages because there were so many shots and so many angles and the audio and stuff. But for the simple ones where it's just me and him in the same place, maybe we'll take like 45 minutes to film and then like an hour or so to edit. For some of the big ones, I've spent like a couple of hours filming and like another couple of hours at least editing. So yeah, it does vary, but generally speaking, it's not too bad. CD Wacker _North _Jesus, probably the weirdest name I've had so far. Would you do a 24-hour no gym day? So 24 hours of not training. I mean, A, I do that twice a week already on my rest days. B, that would be like, what is that video? Just me not training. Like, I feel like you probably should have evaluated that question before you asked it. M. Lorraine 5, Pizza Hut or Domino's? Good question. If you'd asked me that 2 years ago to 18 months ago, I would have said undoubtedly Pizza Hut, right? But now my opinion is starting to shift to the point where it depends. If I really want like a greasy, calorie-dense pizza, then Pizza Hut is still the winner because they literally douse their pizza in fat. But if I wanted like maybe less calorie dense, like maybe a more classic pizza, I'd go for Domino's. I mean, they're both fast food, they're both pretty crappy, but in terms of enjoyment, yeah. Probably going to lean towards Pizza Hut, but it's definitely, the jury is still out. Like, it depends on my mood, basically. Isha_Jat, why would you not go back to powerlifting? I loved powerlifting most of the time. Like, I still say it now, I found powerlifting way more gratifying than my current training. To be fair, it's not a fair comparison because when I was powerlifting I was competing, whereas now as a bodybuilder I'm not competing, so it's not fair to say one's better than the other. But in terms of training, I found powerlifting more gratifying because it was so black and white and so objective, and it was like, hit this number, that's it, you know, it's done, there's no grey area, no arguments. Whereas training as a bodybuilder, you are training to improve your physique, which although is measurable to an extent, I do think it's very subjective and your mind kind of plays tricks. So sometimes I find myself being like, what's the point in training, because, you know, is it going to make a difference, you know? But then I think myself, stop being a little wheezy little rat and just, oh my god. That's the timer to signal the end of the thing. I'm going to carry on because I'll finish that question because I'm a nice person. Whoa, that could have been bad. Yeah. So basically, long story short, I will not go back to powerlifting because there was times it was horrendous. Like towards the end of it, I didn't enjoy it. I was like having to squat to make progress. I had to increase my frequency, so I was squatting and deadlifting heavy up to 3, sometimes even 4 days a week, which friggin' sucked because I'd wake up in the morning and be like, oh, I've got to go and squat really heavy again and feel like I'm gonna poo myself and like my organs are gonna explode, my eyeballs are gonna come out of my head. So it's not a very nice feeling, and because my last comp or two didn't go very well, it was like, why am I doing this? Why am I putting myself through this horrendous experience for no, you know, not an enjoyable outcome? Plus, the commitment is like, again, it's not a fair comparison because as a bodybuilder, if you're competing as a bodybuilder, the commitment required is absolutely outrageous. But as a powerlifter, it meant I couldn't do things. So like I'd go on a holiday and we had to choose a specific place that had a powerlifting gym because I couldn't just go to a regular gym because it had to have a certain bar and a certain squat rack, etc. So it just kind of restricted me in terms of what I could do, stopped me from doing like certain events or things that I wanted to do in my life. So. And plus just YouTube, it's very hard to be a good YouTuber and a good powerlifter at the same time unless you have someone else there to film everything. Like trying to film I basically found that my powerlifting training sessions were struggling because I was putting too much emphasis on trying to get the camera in the right place and thinking about the video narrative rather than just having a good session. So basically, yeah, I'm not going to go back to powerlifting because it was too much of a distraction and I didn't like it towards the end. But as a general rule, I think powerlifting is better than bodybuilding personally, and I think the training as a powerlifter is more gratifying and rewarding than bodybuilding personally. And that, my friends, is where I'm going to end the Q&A. Well, it's not, I'm going to talk for like another 10 seconds to wind the video down, but that's where I'm going to end the question element of the Q&A video. Wow, that seemed quite long. I feel like 20 minutes is probably longer than I thought it was going to be. Maybe next time I'll cut it shorter. Who knows? I hope you enjoyed it, guys. If you did enjoy it, please give it a thumbs up. If your question didn't get answered, then unlucky. Maybe write a better question, or maybe write like 400 questions so it's unavoidable for me to miss it. Does that make sense? Yeah, like the video, subscribe, etc. See you later. You only got one life.